What is up, my truest of duelists? YGO Strats here, today doing a video by request. And as such, I have no idea what it is exactly I'm going to choose to call this video or title it. Am I going with the you should not play this card, don't play this card, viewer request covering of card? Who knows? You know. You've clicked on the video. Or you haven't, because the name and thumbnail suck. That's the joy of YouTube. We'll find out. Either way, as said, today I am covering one dramatic rescue for the one and only Cyber Shredder. Now, not only did I say I would, and therefore I will, but I also really am obligated to do this because holy shit, dude, if I don't do this, I have to face the Cyber Shredder. Regular Shredder gave Batman a run for his money. I ain't fucking with the cyber version of this shit. On point, this one's about a trap card by the name Dramatic Rescue. First released in Magician's Force in 2003, it's had a reprint or two, one in Dark Revelation Volume 1 in 05, and most recently in Gold Series 3 from 2010. And it's never been higher than a rare printing, so wow. It's also never been on the ban list, most likely because this is a piece of Amazonas support from 2003. How could it ever end up on the ban list? I'm actually curious how could this ever end up there. Either way, like said, this is a normal trap card and it has an effect. Namely, it is activatable only when a card is activated that targets an Amazonas monster and will allow you to return the targeted monster to its owner's hand and then special summon one other monster from your hand, which is a tad situational, wouldn't you say? Just a bit? So let's go ahead and analyze this card and see why you maybe don't want to play it. Or maybe you do. It's the beauty of Yu-Gi-Oh, as they say. The biggest problem this card has is that it's a trap card. By design, the effect wants to protect your monsters, but by card design, it wants to interrupt the opponent. If you change this card from being a trap card to instead being a quick play spell card, it immediately becomes 10 times better, being able to protect your monsters on both turns, even if you're going second, and even if it's still in your hand. Granted, this is something that can be said about just about every single trap card in the game. Could you imagine if something like Ice Dragon's Prison was a quick play spell instead? Fuck that. Where I feel this is different, however, is because this is a trap card that just protects your cards. And like, yeah, it's not the only one that does that. And like, technically Mirror Force does that. But this card's sole purpose is to bounce your own monster to save them. Like, sure, it's a trap to make the opponent waste resources, but every time I read this card, some part of my brain just tells me that this is a spell card printed as a trap. I can't express it to you more plainly than that or really authenticate why. I just feel it in my bones. This is also a when effect, so that's cool. Not an if, a when. This means that it needs to be activated in direct response to the card targeting your Amazonas. In a lot of instances, this won't matter. If they target it with a Regeki break or something, you'll have the chance to respond and you can go for your dramatic rescue, as it were. But if there's a chain built up, you're done, son. If your opponent discards Atlantean Heavy Infantry and Dragoons to summon out the Mermail Abyss Megalo, they stack the chain. And if they put Heavy Infantry at Chain Link 1 to target at your monster, activate Dragoons to search on Chain Link 2, and then activate Chain Link 3 Megalo Search, you are 2 Chain Links too late to even think about activating this card effect. You have missed the timing, as it were, and your monster dies. Granted, Mermail is hardly the most relevant thing, and I bet you there are a number of players who don't know a single card effect that I just named, but there are definitely decks that can stack chain links and clear cards, and they are seeing much more play than Mermail, I can assure you. And that'll bring me to the last thing I have to say about this card, and that it's a neg-1. It is a -1 in advantage, strictly speaking. It'll trade a monster on your field for one in your hand, and that is it. If you've only got 3 cards, one in your hand, this set on the field, and a monster on the field, and you use this card, once it's all done, you'll go from having 3 cards to only having 2. Now, depending on what you're playing, you can help mitigate this by summoning a monster that is itself a +1. The issue is Amazonas didn't really get any sort of Stratos until like 2017 with Amazonas Princess, or more recently they got like Spiritualist or War Chief, both from Darkwing Blast, so you know, just 20 years after Dramatic Rescue here. And the best part of all this is that despite searching Spell and Trap each of those cards, none of them can search Dramatic Rescue because they search Amazonas support, and this is not an Amazonas card in name, only in practice. Gotta love that. And even now, with Amazonas monsters to summon, and, plus off of and not just lose advantage, you can finally start to argue that it could see play maybe, except you can't, because look at that. Amazonas has received much better support in the Spell and Trap lineup to help make their plays instead of this 2003 ass card. And granted, you can make the argument that this does not have to summon an Amazonas monster, it only has to return one, so you could use it to summon out a great big dirty beater. You can just drop a Blue Eyes off this or something, and yes, you could, but you have to play Amazonas to get this card going, and Amazonas isn't exactly known for its diverse synergistic strategies, and as such, this card is just not seeing much play, because again, in summary, this is a neg-1 that can't protect you when you're going first, especially if you're going second, and you just have to wait a full turn before it's even live, the beauty of trap cards, but normally they aren't to protect you, they're to interrupt the opponent, and because it can miss the timing, just to rub some salt in the wound. Matter of fact, according to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia, also known as the sacred texts that Luke was so enamored by in the 8th Star Wars movie, also known as the greatest source of truth in our universe, also known as the Bible, yes, that Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia, that site says that this card supports Amazonas monsters because it's a reference to a moment in the anime where Mai Valentine bounced an Amazonas monster to her hand and it's like a duel against Merrick or whatever. And that makes sense when I look at it, because neither the TCG or even really the OCG's artwork really show an Amazonas monster. Like, sure, this one vaguely looks like an Amazonas more so than the TCG art, but like, that's not actually an Amazonas monster, that's just a woman. What a sentence. What a sentence. Either way, making this card Amazonas specific purely for the reference sake, the only thing that did was cause this to see even less play, if such a thing could even be imaginable. So yeah, it's not good. You probably knew that. But I will say, this was a video by request. And so as to not just have shat on a card that a person likes, presumably, like I said, this is part of the beauty of Yu-Gi-Oh! I didn't think anyone even thought about or cared about Legendary Fisherman 3, but the Act Man made a video and showed me that there are a lot of people playing this game in a lot of different ways, or he reminded me of that fact. Either way, if you want to play this card in a casual Amazonas deck because you like bouncing your monster to avoid disruption and tagging it out, or maybe you just feel like living the anime moment, you do you. You can play it. I call it dog shit Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I enjoy calling things that, and because it's a pretty fun way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In limited card pools or with limited deck types or whatever. So if it's fun for you, have at her. Enjoy the game however you'd like to. But if you want to play this game at a locals or against a friend with a stronger deck, but you're dead set on playing Amazonas, if you care about the dub, if you aren't living in L Nation, if you want that fat dub, this card is definitely one of the first things you're going to be cutting, assuming it was in your deck in the first place at all. Sorry, not sorry. That's just not to be dramatic about it. Ha ha ha, get it? Am I funny yet?
No.
And so we'll wrap this up by saying a thank you to the sponsor. Once again, it's the LIFD Magnetic Display, a fantastic and safe way to display and maintain your most precious of cards, be it a meta-defining staple with unlimited potential such as Triple Tactics Thrust or a trap from 03 by the name of Dramatic Rescue. Whatever you want to put on display, I encourage you to do so. And you can check out the link in the description or type in the promo code YGOStrats15 to save 15% off when you purchase one. So if you'd like to help the channel, you can go ahead and do that. I'd appreciate you for it. And if not, thanks for watching. And thank you to LIFD for the continued sponsorship. And so that'll wrap it up for this one. I'm wearing a suit right now, or am I? You'll never know. This is an audio recording. You have no idea. I could be fully in the nude as I'm doing this. We'll never know. You just have to take my word for it. I'm kidding, of course. Spiritually, I am always wearing a suit. Thank you so much for the time and the watch and all that cool stuff. Like if you enjoyed it. And as always, subscribe to YGO Strats to impress your smoking Italian wife and so that you too can be a true duelist.